Now, invoices are easy. All accounting packages support them. Prepaid invoices are not supported unless you were just to rename an invoice to prepaid. Now, timesheets also in these big accounting packages such as Xero and MYB are just super plain. Now, TimePro, on the other hand, has beautiful timesheets they're loved because they're fully automated. You know, the booking is done in Dynamics and they just flow through for nothing to do. Plus, we have nice comments which are fully automated. They just flow through from what you've done in GitHub or Azure DevOps or Jira, Zendesk, and more. So, in short, the first accounting package that TimePro is going to help will be Xero. Xero because it has a beautiful API. Now, this TimePro Xero integration is going to enable prepaid invoices, automated timesheets, and invoices that look sexy too for the customers. So why bother? Good question. Customers are receiving ugly invoices in their inboxes all the time. Like, it's really common. But I'm a big believer in getting your brownie points. So developers do awesome work, like really awesome work, and we send big invoices. So why not list all the work we do, which automatically flows through, so no trouble there, and show them on a pretty invoice. This, in my mind, is claiming all your brownie points. So this presentation is going to show you both UIs. You'll see TimePro UI, then Xero UI, and if you use this TimePro extension, then you're not going to have to enter anything into Xero at all. It will all automatically sync. The one exception is receipts. So with that, I'm going to hand you off to myself. All right, g'day guys. I'm going to be talking through TimePro's next big feature, which is Xero integration. And here is the plan to talk through how to have TimePro, which is a good invoicing and timesheeting system, and have that all sync through to Xero. We'll talk about auth invoices, and here's the more detailed plan. First, you want to be able to authenticate to Xero when you start the integration, and then you want to refresh the tokens so that every 15 minutes, so it keeps alive and you don't have to log in again. Then I want to talk through the time materials invoices, how to save that off using the Xero API, how you can't lock an invoice in Xero, sadly, and we'll put a URL back to the TimePro invoice so that if you want to change anything, you go back to TimePro and then you resave it and it will sync over to Xero. And how we'll have nice PDFs or nice invoices sent to clients. The other stuff to talk about then is the prepaid invoices and how as work is done, it is then recognized in Xero. How timesheets are going to be recorded in Xero using manual journals, which is a feature over in Xero. How the receipts are done, and just that's one area in this integration where you'll enter it in Xero first and it will sync back the other way. And then credit notes, which is very rare. That's when a customer goes broke and can't pay a bill or wants a refund. Not very common. And then the challenges. So here is the agenda. Let's talk through auth. So this is the experience. You're going to connect to auth, to Xero. Press that button, you'll log in, and then you press login, and then you press allow access. And then this will be set up by default so that that's your tenant, and they're the 3 accounts you are using in Xero. You can change that if you want. And then you'll have this table. This table in the database will be called auth connections. And this is a compliant OAuth 2 table, which has all the fields. So for example, for the Xero integration, you'll have all this, plus you'll have some standard columns like normal. And then those extra fields, remember those 3 extra fields on the slide before? Those, those different accounts, they will be in this field called custom data. And likewise, if we have integration with Azure DevOps or GitHub, you'll have a record here that would say GitHub, all the data and any GitHub fields would be down in the custom data. Awesome. So there are some limitations with Xero. At the moment, we have 25 tenants allowed. We will then become a Xero partner. We'll be charging for this feature in TimePro and then we'll put this thing into the Xero Marketplace, which will be great because it will be the only extension in the Xero Marketplace that works first with Azure DevOps and with Dynamics. Okay, so here is a few limitations of that API. How you can't flood it, and obviously this will change when you become a partner. And then the OAuth tokens that you get it's all okay. So we are going to store those tokens not in a file but in memory, and we'll be refreshing it every 30 minutes, and that will be updated in that table you just saw, auth connections. Let's talk about the time materials invoices. So there are a few types in TimePro, and this is the TimePro experience today. You come through here, and this will not change. You'll come through, you'll enter who the customer is, and then you'll enter some details and save the invoice. So you'll enter some time, and you'll then the guys will enter timesheets, and that will be put in here. So there you see it. Then you'll press email the invoice, and the customer will receive this email. And if you open that PDF, it will look like that. Now I want you to just notice the beauty of this PDF. It looks gorgeous. It has nice styling and lots of cool stuff. The consultant is bolded, got little bits of red. Now that is what is quite nice about that. Now that you could give that up if you wanted to. Here is the Xero experience. To do the same thing, you'll press plus, invoice, enter the details, choose the solution, the consultant, type through 8 hours, a day's worth of work, press approve, then press email, and then put some details in here, press send, and the customer would receive this email. This is a pretty common email. A lot of people might have seen it because it's a Xero invoice. It doesn't come, the email from is a bit unusual, and it looks like this. You can tart it up a little bit of lipstick on the pig. You can't do that much. You can't bold Bob Northwind, the consultant. You can't do a lot. I think it's pretty important that this looks slick. And we put as many details as we want here. We format everything. I think it's important. It's what they pay, but maybe not as important as I think. These are the limitations. You can't associate timesheets to an invoice. You got limitations of how many fields you can have, or pieces of data. So if you had more than 100 projects and more than 100 employees, you have some problems with the 100 limitation. The notes are very limited, not like our notes. You can't link back to the TimePro invoice, and you can't add extra data, such as you want to store the project, which does matter to us for some big clients that have different projects. Customers that use this will be able to use the TimePro PDF, or they could use the Xero PDF if they like, okay? But it doesn't have all the nice details on descriptions. I think that matters. So if you wanted to add notes into Xero, because TimePro supports internal notes and external notes, how do you do the same thing in Xero? You can press add a note. This is an internal note, and then you put it in here. You'll notice that the last note is the one that shows here. So you've got history of change. It's quite nice. What about a public note? Well, a public note is a bit of a workaround. You come in here and you go none, and you're kind of putting an extra record on the invoice. And there it sits down there. Okay, so that doesn't look as good as ours. Kind of just melds into the invoice, but anyway. So this is the data structure of the Xero invoice, and there's the rest of it. Well, that's the one for products, and we just did time. So the source of truth is going to be clients, products, timesheets, and invoices, and the source of truth for the receipts will be in Xero. So let's just talk about that. Even though I said the source of truth is TimePro, you can turn on the integration with Dynamics, and that means that Dynamics is the source of truth flowing through to TimePro, and TimePro flows through to Xero. And this is what Xero will look like once the details are synced. And likewise for products in TimePro, and this is what it looks like over in Xero. And these are timesheets in TimePro,
and that is what it will look like when it's if you were to sync it over there. This is a paid add-on, and we won't need that. All right, and receipts. Remember, receipts will be first in Xero, but this is what it will look like in TimePro, and that's what it looks like in Xero. You go to the invoice and you add the receipt. So that will be the process that used. And then you can update things. Be aware that if an invoice is fully paid, you can't update it. So what you need to do is delete the payment, update the invoice, put the payment back, and we're going to have an automatic process for that. So you won't even feel that pain, because you'll just go to TimePro, update the invoice, and it will, in the background, do it all. So let's talk about prepaid invoices. Prepaid invoices when customers pay ahead of time. And what you want to do is you want to put that in your accounting system, but you don't want to be paying tax or GST or whatever until it's been used up. So how do you do it in TimePro? You come through and you choose prepaid, and then you click add an invoice item, and then you put how many hours they're buying. Let's just say they're buying 40 hours, and you press email invoice, and that is the beautiful invoice. And that is you then allocate as the developers work on it. You press allocate, and you'll see it getting used up in the invoice. Now you won't get these fields in Xero exactly like this. So you'll get this nice prepaid statement, and then to do the same thing in Xero, you would have to set up a prepaid account first in Xero as an extra account. It just goes in here, and the extra account is a liability account because somebody's paid you, so now you owe them back if you don't use it. And that's the account of 810. And then you go into the invoice, you click there, you put in the customer, Northwind, there's the 40 hours, so the exact same thing, and you'll see the account is 810. So that will do all this automatically, and then you press approve. And then you come through here, and then you'll email the customer. And for the time that's being used, this will happen automatically, but if you were to do it manually, you'll go into manual journals, you'll go new manual journal, you'll enter, so for this invoice, the developer Bob Northwind did this work, and we'll put it against that account, and that's the sale we just did. So we're seeing the sale as the work is done rather than seeing the sale when the invoice was sent to the customer and paid. So let's talk about timesheets. Here's the beautiful timesheeting system. We put the date, the hours, the project, and all our notes come through from Azure or GitHub automatically. So you do your timesheet, which comes through automatically, and you can just, it's one click and it's done. It gets even better if you use the week view, which automatically shows you what was in your calendar or your CRM Dynamics 365 resource calendar. So that's all very cool, and that's just one click and it's all done. So this is the timesheets add-on. That's the paid add-on, which we're avoiding, but that's the equivalent over there. Now, I was just asked why worry about some of these things, and I will tell you that it's very important to get your brownie points. When one of the more important things to worry about is when you are doing work. Lots of people can code, but if you want to be a great consultancy, you need to get your brownie points. And there's lots of ways of getting your brownie points, but when you're doing a daily scrum, you're being a good communicator. When you take requirements from a customer and then send it to myself, you're getting brownie points. When you're doing a done email, when you finish the work, you're getting brownie points. Done video, even better. A good sprint review, more. Sending an invoice with plenty of comments. It's just another piece of the puzzle, and that's why I think it's important. Click on receipts is next, and this will be Xero first, as I told you before. But this is what it is in TimePro. So you click on here, then it's allocated to the right invoice. Now in Xero, what you'll do is you'll receive the amount and put in there. But this is the beauty of Xero. It will automatically see things. And look how dedicated Brennan Richards is. He put his own money in, create an invoice, and all the accountant has to do is press OK, and it's done. And this is, it being allocated. So that's a really nice feature of Xero. Obviously, you want to use. Now, credit notes are just a random one that don't happen very often. But essentially, in TimePro, the way you do a credit note, it's basically if you invoice someone and they can't pay it, you give them back a credit note. So in TimePro, it's a negative invoice. So you come in here and you write the amount, but negative. And then you'll see it. And so now you've got a positive one where you invoiced and a negative one. And so then you go into receipts and you enter the total receipt that you just received of 0, but you allocate it against the 2. So you allocate it against the invoice and then the credit note, and you're done. So that's that done. How do you do it in Xero? Well, they have a completely different way of doing that. So that's invoices, new credit note. You come through and enter the credit note, and now you allocate how much you've given them credit against the invoice that you want to do it. So we have to discuss whether we're going to change TimePro to match Xero. We may not do it. If we do it, it will look something like this. Let me show you. You'll come through and you do a new credit note looking like Xero. You put the credit note amount and then you allocate it against the right invoice. So you come through here and do that. So that would be the process. We'll decide if we want to do that. Now the challenges are having two systems like this. Replication is always going to be painful. There's going to be some bugs and they're going to be hard to find bugs and we're going to have to fix them. Developers changing timesheets and Xero being down. We're going to have to support that. We cannot lock an invoice in Xero. There's no workaround. Hopefully that won't be a problem because if they do change it, it'll just be overwritten. Xero does lock invoices when fully paid. We have a workaround and we'll just rip out the payment, fix it up and put the payment back. Credit note's very different, so we're going to have to work out what to do there. And the setup, we're going to have to make it a nice experience when people haven't configured it correctly. And we need to still, in my mind, work out a way one day of working and not using TimePro invoices at all. But I think it's just needed at the moment. So in summary, we talked about auth, the time materials invoices, prepaid, timesheets, receipts, and the technical challenges. Thank you.